Hey, yo!
So for most of you that recently logged onto the game, we have seen the long-awaited reruns for previous characters, and not only that, we have actually seen a new 4-star added to the game. Her name is actually called Chevreuse, but I am going to call her Chevrolet because she's as useful as a car. I will explain that later in the video and why she's so useful. So that also means that I don't really need to talk for a long time, as a lot of people don't like that. So before getting into it though, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, or even comment anything on this channel. I will for sure try to listen to as many people as I could with very descriptive text so you guys can just get a full understanding and just for me to answer your question. Otherwise, I wouldn't even just exist anyways, but like... So the first thing that I actually want to get into is Chevreuse's talents. I actually start off with this section on a lot of characters that I showcase, and it's basically just a repeated plan, so you guys can actually just get a full understanding step by step. Obviously, starting off with her, I do want to talk about the normal attack talent. She apparently uses a polearm, and this is actually not that different to most polearm users. Who the hell? Why does everyone keep joining? What in keyboard? As I was saying, I hope I don't get interrupted like that again. But just to conclude this, she is not that different to most polearm users, and she just does normal attacks. Now moving on to her second talent, this one is actually very important to know, and I'll explain why in just a sec. For this skill, she actually uses a gun which does AoE pyro damage. But something about it that is just absolutely insane is that this will actually heal you over time as you actually shoot the bullet. You can see here, the HP gained from this way will actually scale off of her max HP, and on top of that, you can actually hold her skill down to fire in a different fashion, which also just affects this area right here. Basically, in just short form, if your team does an overloaded reaction while you are holding down the skill button, you can gain something called an overcharged ball, which is actually only once. But what this really does is it will just do a substantial amount of damage rather than just small damage. A lot of people don't care about this area as she is just a support, but it is just there to define what she can do more. Furthermore, I really want to talk about the third talent here. This really just fires a big grenade from her, which can just do a substantial amount of pyro damage, and also turns her into a sub DPS. Now lastly, I do want to cover up these two last talents together, because what they do is not only is she a healer, but she can actually be a damage buffer, which also is just really good, and I'll explain what it does. Basically, if you have one pyro and one electro teammate on the team, she will actually decrease the resistance of pyro and electro by 40%. This does, however, only base off of overloaded reactions, but I'm not gonna complain as this is just so good for her and just something very unique. To add on something very OP, I also wanted to talk about this talent right here. What this can do is whenever you fire an overcharged ball using the skill, she will actually give an attack bonus depending on how much max HP she has, and like it says over here, 1000 of her max HP can actually be converted to 1% attack. You can add up to 40% attack increase this way. With that, you can also make her a tank with 40,000 HP. I really hope I simplified everything so you guys can just understand this well, and you guys don't have to read a bunch of bullcrap as this is also just explained in just 2 minutes. Another topic that I want to get into is obviously your constellations. This topic right here especially is actually mind-boggling because of how OP these constellations are. And I'm not even lying to you, this is probably the best 4-star constellations I've seen on a 4-star yet. So first off, starting off with our first talent, I really want to talk about this especially because this one is actually pretty nice, and it's just helpful if you guys are trying to get energy. What this will do is that after you've used Chevreuse's skill, you can gain up to a max amount of energy of 6, which then depends on if you are doing an overloaded reaction, but this does actually exclude Chevreuse in some way. So it's not something so big, but it is something to add on to Chevreuse because she mainly pays attention to support anyways, so this will actually make her a battery as well. Now moving on to the second constellation, what this does is it basically just ups her damage. I mean, like I said again, she can be used as a sub DPS, so this constellation is actually just great. Upon impact on her skill, she will actually fire 2 chain explosives, which will actually just explode right beside her, dealing pyro damage up to 120%. This will also turn it into elemental skill damage, which is also pretty nice. But if you are just mainly building her as a support, this really does not matter, and I will show you guys that are just absolutely broken right after it. Now our third talent, this one is not any different. Like I said again, I have not seen this any different. This will actually just up the talents of both your skill and alt. Now the second last constellation that is just absolutely good is C4. What this will do exactly is after using your ult, you can actually use your skill for up to 6 seconds, or you could just hold it down twice. But I do recall that you can only have one overcharged ball on the field at a time, so this either just makes her more of a sub DPS, or she's just left on the side. Now the last and final constellation that I want to talk about, this is obviously C6. What this will do is after the 12-second healing from Chevreuse's skill, all party members with her actually gain 10% more HP from Chevreuse's max HP, but after the teammates that are healed by her skill, they can gain up to 60% pyro damage and electro damage at the same time. Obviously, this only goes for pyro and electro characters. I mean, it literally says that. This does last for 8 seconds, which is just a pretty long time, and I know most ults that don't last that long, so this is just so useful to a point where it's being replaced. Now moving on to weapons for Chevreuse, this is something that is so free to play friendly, and I'm not even lying, like there's just a bunch of 4 stars here that I can just read out to you, and some of you will probably have them, or you can get them literally right now. The best weapon for her is actually a craftable from Fontaine. It is a polearm named Rightful Reward, and what this will do is it will give you the HP main stat, and trust me, the substats on this weapon just absolutely fit her with all the HP stuff that you get from it, which just leads nothing better. Sadly, I don't have the weapon because I don't grind Fontaine, okay? I'm bad at the game. But if you don't have Fontaine unlocked, or you just don't want to go through that mess, you can actually use Favonius Lance, as this is also really good when it comes to particles. Plus, on top of that, it does give you energy recharge as the main stat, so if you are looking for a battery as well, this weapon just absolutely suits her. Another major weapon that is so versatile with her is obviously the Black Tassel. This weapon's main stat can go up to 47% HP, which is just so naturally for her, and for this weapon itself, I think it naturally can beat Rightful Reward. Now moving on to artifacts itself, I do want to point out something that's very interesting, and or maybe I'm just dumb that I just figured this out, but if you click on this flower thingy down here, it will actually reveal artifact sets naturally for her. I'll actually show an example for a different character like maybe Dory. I don't use this freak, so I don't know whoever will. You can see the recommended sets for her, and number 1 being is Noblesse. But for Chevreuse right now, we can't see what the best recommended artifact set for her in-game. The best artifact set for her is Noblesse. In general, it just gives you an elemental burst damage up to 20%, and then her 4-piece actually just relies on her elemental burst, as whenever you use it, it will just increase 20% of the attack of all party members for 12 seconds. You can also run 4-piece Tenacity as an alternative if you are trying to reach 40k HP, but that's only for if you can't reach the HP itself. And I am going to say right now, Noblesse is the most easiest domain to farm, so I would just go for that anyways, and not the second option. Her sands, make sure it's actually HP %, as that's what you... Oh, that's literally... I'm not... For her goblet though, I do recommend going pyro damage, because I'm pretty sure by then, you'll probably have max HP, and plus the pyro damage bonuses that she gains from her talents also can affect her. Wait a minute, she's eating KFC! Now the last topic I do want to talk about Chevreuse is her team comps. She does rely on characters that are either Electro or Pyro, so a simple team that I would say she can go in is Raiden, Kuju, Kazuha, and maybe even her. But something that is off with this is that I actually took Bennett out, and here's why. You see, both characters can actually run Noblesse, but the thing is they cannot stack. And overall, Chevreuse actually gives you a way more damage bonus onto the team other than just Bennett himself. Plus, aside from Bennett, Chevreuse is basically everything, as she is a sub DPS, healer, and maybe even a battery. Oh, and I also forgot, yeah, the damage bonus, so basically support. I mean, all of those are support, man. Come on, you get it. I really don't want to make this something hard to understand, and I never do in the first place. And for me as well, I do look at big sections, and I just write them down into small portions. Honestly, in my stance, most Electro and Pyro damage dealers can actually gain a huge damage bonus within this, so I am going to say that this is definitely worth it. Oh yeah, and one more thing before I end this video off, I do want to say that at least her C6 is activatable, because unlike Bennett, this guy is giving me OCD. And finally, after Benny's adventure chain has finally been disassembled, the moon has definitely risen. Honestly, thank you guys so much for the support earlier, because you guys are just absolutely amazing with all the questions and all the suggestions from you guys. I really had a fun experience listening to all that stuff. Is there a dancing Wait a minute, there's a dancing grass leaf, what is that? Whoa, whoa, whoa! But I'm gonna stop my blabbing, and hopefully this floating grass thing can get out of my screen. Oh my god! Sxyrax out. Bye-bye.